Welcome to Ravens Across the Pond, your place for everything Baltimore Ravens. From a fresh, European perspective. Plenty of laughs, plenty of piss-taking, and of course, questionable insights. Sit back, relax, grab a beer, and enjoy the show.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Ravens Across the Pond, going live tonight on YouTube for the first time. The episode will be out on as normal tomorrow on Spotify and Apple. Podcast is brought to you by the Across the Pond Sports Network in conjunction with our sponsors, stacked.game, your number one place for NFL bet tracking in the UK. Bit of a rough one tonight. Got to go through that absolute capitulation on Sunday Night Football against the Patriots. Another fourth quarter loss for John Harbaugh and the Ravens. It was a horrendous ending to the game. I was speaking to Oliver before we went live, and he was saying that there wasn't really a point in that game in the first three quarters where he thought that we were going to get beat. A lot of stuff went wrong. There's a lot of questions to be asked. There's a lot of answers that we need as fans, that the organisation needs to start giving us. There needs to be accountability on all levels. So before we go into some of the nitty-gritty of the stuff coming up on tonight's show, we'll cover the capitulation against the Patriots. There was a video surfaced of Isaiah Likely post-game video going out to his car. He made a comment that we arse as fuck. I think he's since come out and tried to switch that. Is the Lamar, John Harbaugh era coming to an end? Eric DeCosta, plenty of questions, yet no answers. And then, is 2025 the best thing to happen to this organisation in recent times? You'll see joining me tonight. It's the boy from the West Country, Oliver. How are we?
Fine, mate. You?
Being better. And it's that kid from Barnsley who even the subtitles can't understand what he's saying. How are we, Dans?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
What are we drinking, fellas?
It's got to be our most regional show yet, hasn't
it? Box ticket, yeah.
First thoughts on the game. I logged into. I didn't watch it live this morning. I thought I'd have a quick check on Stacked, see how our bet got on, without looking at the score. And I thought, oh yeah, Henry 128 yards, Zay Flowers didn't hit 90 like you wanted, Tom, but got there. Zay Flowers 7 receptions. I thought, fucking hell, we've battered them. Then I sat through watching it on Sky Go recording. Like I said earlier, first three quarters, thought this is easy, got us in the bag. Yeah, and then just fourth quarter, just same old story, isn't it?
It is the same old story. I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom from that game. And I don't just want to dive in on that. Like you said, Oliver, there was points in the first three quarters that were excellent. Look, that first opening drive, an absolute rapid start. Bang, straight to the house. Up 7-0. Might have been a little bit of a momentum change with the Derek Henry fumble. And, that's something else that we'll get onto. But, Dan's them first three quarters, what were you thinking there?
Yeah, like you said, I thought it was pretty comfortable to a certain extent. And then even when we lost Lamar, it seemed like we kept the run game going. We kept going. And I thought we were going to get over the line. But then same old story. We just abandoned everything that we were doing right. And when we have not got Lamar, why would you abandon run? Stop putting Derrick Henry in. And then ultimately, as pass rush, which has been non-existent most of the year, just made too much time. I've got a stat here that we did 9 plays of 20 plus yards and 3 of them on third down. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's just how can you sustain when you're keeping the teams on field with big plays like that, especially on third down? It's not going to work, is it?
No. Look, while you're on the subject of third downs, for me, I've always had a lot of questions about Marlon Humphrey. Some people might go, that's unfair. You know, he's done a lot of good things in purple and black, but statistically, in an awful lot of stats this year, Marlon Humphrey is the worst fucking cornerback in the league. He's had give away the most third down receptions. He's given away the most receiving yards for a corner of any corner in the league. He's not the only issue. He isn't. I'm saying this to Oliver before we came on. There's so many things that you could change. We could say, "Oh, we'll go and get an edge rusher." An edge rusher doesn't change anything. If you look at Micah Parsons, he's left the Cowboys. The Cowboys on track to finish how they did last season. The 49ers have been missing Bosa. They're on 11 wins, or the project, whatever the record is at the moment, but they're flying without Bosa. Myles Garrett is going to win Defensive Player of the Year again. Phenomenal. The Browns are on track to do what the Browns do. So going out and getting an edge rusher doesn't change anything. They're not a needle mover. They don't move the needle for teams. Like, stats are there to prove that. So fundamentally, there is so many things wrong with this organization, not just on defense or offense, but pass rush is the number one thing. You look at in the second quarter, New England have got the ball 3rd and 13. Ravens are up 7-0. So the Ravens defense sets up to simulate pressure. They then drop to a Tampa 2. So that means that Wiggins and Marlon drop to play deep halves. Starks does the middle hook, run the pole, and then Roquan Smith, Humphrey, you keep the pressure. The pressure never came from them for a start. Gave Drake May so much time, and then he nails a pass over the middle to the tight end. And obviously Malachi Starks hasn't been able to make a play. Is it unfair on Malachi Starks? He's a rookie coming into the league, possibly so. But then again, Oliver, does that come down to a scheme issue?
I think it does. I mean, I think I spoke to you earlier and said, again, there was at least 3 plays of 3rd and 10, 1 play 4th and middle, and you look, all the corners are sitting 5 to 10 yards off, play prevent defense. We've gone on to prevent defense quite a few times. Always comes apart to us. We never really,
works.
A key part of that prevent defense is covering the outside, and sometimes we manage that, but we get gashed across the middle. I think we just see it constantly, but at the same time, what can they do without the pass rush? It's got to work in tandem. And our pass rush, my thoughts on that. I think you read them slightly earlier. We let Drake May stood there all day with the ball, just passing it like Richard patting a horse has been really well groomed, just all day waiting for people to get open, 20 yards down the middle, hit the hook, they're gone.
I think there were one
on the scheme issue. I think on the scheme issue on the pass rush, you look at Adafio away against us. How many times did he grab someone's jersey, not get a sack, almost get there? He's gone to the Chargers on 8 sacks.
Yeah,
it's got to be a scheme issue at that point.
There were one play, and I'm sure it were a 3rd down, and it were a 25, 26 yarder to Matt Collins, and Drake May must have had 12 seconds in that pocket because he run the route. He set off on his crosser, and he were in that dead man's land between safety and the outside, and he would just stood there on an island, and he could have got a camp table out, sat there, picked his poison, and thrown it. It was ridiculous.
And you can add Matt Collins to the list of bang average wide receivers, such as John Metzie at the Jets, Greg Dulcich at Dolphins, who scored quite a lot of yards against us and have done nothing.
I put Metchie in my fantasy football team after the play, doesn't he? Ain't got a fucking point since. We made him look like a prime fucking Stephon Diggs. Saying that, Stephon Diggs looked prime was.
Well, this is the thing. This is what I was going to
stand in Dan's eye, but Come on. Obviously, we do know fantasy, but sometimes you do have some questionable decisions.
On the subject of Stefan Diggs, and this comes into what we're saying about the 9 plays of 20 yards, 3 of them are on third down, another third down. This now I'm not sure whether this was in the third quarter or the fourth quarter. I know it was in the second half. But there was just another play where there was no pass rush. Drake May had all the time in the world, and he just lobbed a nice little 23-yard back-breaking pass that just totally, Stefan Diggs, he was running a savvy veteran route, and he's managed to finish his route and turned and looked, and he's managed to get into the soft zone. There's no coverage and being able to make a play, and you're like, what is going on fundamentally? We'll get onto the offense in a bit and all that, but fundamentally, the defense is fucking terrible. The passing defense is terrible. The pass rush is terrible.
I do feel sorry for secondary sometimes, though, because when you're covering people for that long, it just don't work, does it? You can't hold on to your man for 10, 15 seconds. We're not even knocking the quarterback off the spot. He's just 5 or 6 paces back on his drop back, and it's just a clean pocket every time. We're not even making him move. So we're asking him to be
hit today, which is, it looks good on paper, but a lot of those, like you said, after like 5, 6, 7 seconds of standing in the pocket. And Drake May usually is quite mobile. Didn't see him moving much today because he didn't need to.
Didn't need to. They were just gashing us on this.
What did Drake May end up with? 384 passing yards.
His first ever 300+ game.
It's just like Ravens are in town. Let's go and break records. And
you watch Humphrey get burned on short slants constantly. It's just only so much you can take on that. I think.
But this is the thing again. This is the thing again about Marlon Humphrey. Steelers game, first play of the game. Who does Aaron Rodgers target? Marlon Humphrey. First play of the game for the Patriots on Sunday night. Who did he target? Marlon Humphrey. The last play of the fucking game, the Patriots. Who did Drake May target? Marlon Humphrey. You do that if they are the weak link. Like you are the weakest link on that. Like I also don't understand. I mean, possibly come back from injury and that. But why is AD only getting in the game in the fourth quarter? What's going on? That's obviously personnel manpower thing. And is that on Zach, or is we'll get onto the offense personnel issue in a minute, but does that fall on Todd Monken, or is that John Harbaugh who's meant to be saying this is the man who I want in the game? It's all well and good and coming out post game and saying it we'll get onto that in a minute, but who's meant to be calling the manpower for these plays? Because sure as shit, it's not John Harbaugh saying it from what he's coming out after the game and saying.
I'm fucking absolutely
Brent Urban.
I'm absolutely pig sicker in passing buck. John Harbaugh passing buck to left, right. He's got an headset on. Do something. If you're not happy with what you see, speak to somebody. Talk about it. Or do what Dan Campbell did. Just take the fucking play call off him and start calling the plays. If you're not happy,
his whole thing is and we'll probably touch on this later. As he says, he's a CEO, head coach, which means he doesn't get involved in day-to-day decisions. So what the fuck we paying?
So why is he still in a job then? Because we're fucking failing left, right, and centre. And ultimately, if he's the CEO, he's got to take the brunt of it. He seemed to throw everybody else under the bus and not take no ownership for shit that's happening under his reign.
I'm at a loss with it. I mean, obviously, we're gonna talk about John Harbaugh and his future later on. Look, on offense, Derek Henry, 128 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. He was averaging 7.8 yards per carry. Clearly, Todd Monken wasn't happy with that, or John Harbaugh, because he didn't come out for the last 12 minutes and 50 seconds in that fourth quarter. Zay Flowers, another fumble. There are serious questions to be asked about Zay Flowers, in my opinion. He posted a clip in the off-season because there was a lot of things said about it. Like he's a playmaker. That's what he did at college, and that's what's got him drafted. He is a playmaker. Like yards after the catch. That's what he can do. And there was, things being said about him last year about the juking and possibly trying do a bit too much. And he said in the off season, like, he put a video out, I'm not going to do none of that cutting, juking shit anymore. It's just run straight. He's had two fumbles on the year this year, like big points in games. And like, I'm sick and tired of him seeing him catch the ball and then turn back into coverage. You could see that play coming a mile off the other night. You just knew the linebacker was going to come in behind him and punch that ball out. It's why are you doing that, Jay? You don't need to do that. Like, what's going on?
If it's playing straight well.
Yeah, and with that, I think I said I don't know if is that a coaching issue on the offensive side. Everyone's trying to extend plays. You look at the very best playmaker, take what's there. Andrews fumbles last year before he dropped it. That's never forgets about the fumble because he dropped it in the end zone. That cost us a season. Say again, 2 years ago.
Mark Andrews had a fucking lateral this game or whatever it was.
Well, what the fuck that was then, I don't know.
No idea.
It's just one positive though. It did look better on the O-line than it has done. When you're looking at Linderbaum finally had one of his better games, I thought. It's doing quite well. They finally started to run zone run to the left. And when that's happening, you can see Rosengarten and Linderbaum getting out wide and blocking people. I think there's even one. Big Dan managed to get all the way inside. And sort of quarterback. If you see that running at you think, fuck that. And then running power to Dan Falele's side works. It just it works because he's massive. Really effective.
But Daniel Falele, he was too big in college. They moved his position in college. Yeah. Like he's too big. Like if obviously if he was any good at that position, like he'd have played there. Like it's and it's like the guy's 6'8", probably about 398 pounds. Like and you look. I know he had a bit of a better game, and I'm not I'm not going to blow smoke up his ass, because he's been nothing short of shite. However, this Daniel Falele problem now, I can't pin the blame on Daniel Falele for his poor performances anymore. Like, because I can't even look at it and go, there's no effort there. Do you know what I mean? I just think he's a bit lost. He's not playing in the right position, and top and bottom of it, don't think he's good enough for the league. There's a body of work now to say I can kind of back that statement up with. So take the blame away from Daniel Falele. The blame has got to go on, and again, this is another issue. Who's deciding the personnel? Because if it's not Todd Monken, and if it's not John Harbaugh, then who's deciding and putting Daniel Falele in, week out? You're getting the same results. Like, it's insanity. He's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Like, I can't blame Daniel Falele anymore. The blame is off him. It's like me and Rick asking somebody to go and do a job that I know they can't do. And then when they inevitably fuck up, I drag them in the office and go, "Oh, what are you doing, you stupid dickhead?" Like, well, that's not fair. Do you know what I mean? I need to take accountability then. Like, I'm not leading properly, and that's what's happening at the Ravens.
Yeah. There's no else to add there. I don't think we've got the personnel to swap him out, and I don't think John Harbaugh's got the personnel that he trusts. So it's just a case of getting through this season. There's Ben Cleveland sat there that's never going to get a game.
And this is the thing that it falls on EDC, and we've got a segment on EDC in a bit. And like I've wrote an awful lot, and I'm going to go in on him because I think he's getting away with it scot-free now, and he shouldn't be. Like, granted, John Harbaugh, Zach Orr, Todd Monken, the offensive lineman coaches, the defensive lineman coaches cornerbacks coach. Like, they're the ones whose head should be on the chopping block. But if that's the case, EDC as well for some of the stuff he's done. Look, that was it was a record-breaking night at the bank. So, in the last 17 years, the Ravens are 23-2. No, scrap that. Sorry. So the Ravens are 23-2 in Sunday night primetime games coming into this season. They're 0-3 on the year, so they've lost more Sunday night primetime games this year than they had previously. John Harbaugh now has. John Harbaugh now has the most double digits leads that have resulted in a loss in NFL history.
By a good few and all. I think it were 4 or 5 more than any other team.
By an absolute country fucking mile. It was the 12th fourth quarter lead loss since 2021. That's NFL history over a 5-year span. Now, this is something which again raises into question coaching and front office. The other 3 teams on that list over the 5-year span, the top 4, Baltimore Ravens with 12, Indianapolis Colts with 7, Chicago Bears with 7, and Cardinals 7. Granted, the argument can be had that Indianapolis Colts wouldn't have been in a position that many times going into a fourth quarter with a league during them 4 years. Same can definitely be said for the Bears and maybe the Cardinals. But the fact of the matter is, you look at them organisations on that list, Colts being a dumpster fire for a while. The Bears, up until this year, have been a dumpster fire. And the Cardinals have got a QB that they don't know what they're going to do with. And Jacoby Brissett can run the scheme better than Kyler Murray can. And an organisation like the Ravens, you're like, why are we on that fucking list? Like, we're not a dumpster fire of an. I mean, it feels like we are at the moment, but obviously, you look at Ravens' history gone by. Don't have many losing seasons. They don't have many seasons like this. Do you know what I mean? There has been a struggle at times, but I was just like, why are we on that list with them teams? What's going on?
I think ultimately, I think I said this to you, Tom, earlier. I think when light shines brightest, we just crumble. There's nobody, or it seems like there's nobody in that organisation that grabs bull by horns when time comes that you need to. Whether that's Lamar on the field, whether that's Derrick Henry, whether that's as leaders on the field, whether that's John Harbaugh and as coordinators. It just seems like as soon as we get up by 10, 12, whatever points in front, that we all look at each other as if to say, right, here we go now. There's just nobody that can drag us over that line. And ultimately, I think that's a culture thing. I think that's now we've got to a point now where heads are dropping. I think we need a fresh change. We need some fresh ideas and we need a fresh mentality. Because the players have got the talent, there's no reason why we should be on that list.
Oh, yeah. Like, you know what I mean? There's a massive anomaly. You go down previous years. We've had the number 1 defense. We've had the top 5 offense. And we've done absolutely nothing with it. When the time comes in critical moments, the Baltimore Ravens fold. 2018 playoffs, lost to the Chargers. 2019, lost to the Titans in the division round. 2020, lost to the Bills in the divisional round. 2022, lost to the Bengals in the wild card. Obviously, 2023, lost to the Chiefs in the conference championship. And 2024 lost in the divisional game to the Bills. Every single time in those games, like the Titans Chargers game, was Lamar's first playoff game, wasn't it? And he was just restricted.
They might have played. They played like 8 defensive backs, didn't they? That's when he couldn't throw.
Yeah,
Greg Roman hamstring by him, really.
The Titans playoff game, like Vrabel had Lamar Jackson in his back pocket and he also schemed for him. But in all the other games, you can pinpoint there's been critical moments in them games where there has been a downfall, whether it's a drop catch, whether it's a fumble. Like these things, what are the coaches doing during practice.
Even them last two against Chiefs and Bills, even them seasons though, we've had capitulations in the season. So it's like we've had the warning signs, we've seen it. Surely once you've done something once in season, you iron that out. Whether that's just let's just run the ball, let's play smart football. It's not like they just spring up. They've been scattered along this period, this timeline, and we just can't seem to iron it out.
Does it to chew people out though and call people out? There's only so many. I think
apart from his own coordinators,
he probably has lost the dressing room, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he hasn't got.
Who's got it better than us? After you've just had your ass having you. And speeches and prayer circles don't fucking work after a while, do they?
It just uses every cliche that known to man. Oh, we'll prepare for next week. Yeah, we'll forget about that. It's at some point we need to stop forgetting about it and start fucking doing something about it because we keep leaving it there.
There's 3 teams on that list that I've just read out with less 4 quarter losses that have got it better than us. Statistically, got it better than us. It's not in John Harbaugh's makeup and mantra to come out and call players out. Like he's never done it, and I don't expect him to change. Like, I mean, if he comes out and does it now, that's when you know. Look, he's gone here because he's just changed his whole, like what we've seen for 17 years. He's just changed now. Like that's when you know he's too far gone. Look, we'll obviously.
We're not even asked about him calling people out. I just want to see a change in what's happening. That we constantly see him saying stuff over and over again. I don't want him to change him being him. Just change the fucking problems.
But bottom line, it comes down to leadership, and we'll get onto that in a minute. Look, obviously, that game there and the result pretty much puts the nail in the coffin for the Ravens. For this offseason, unless Shador and the Browns can go and beat the Steelers next weekend, and then the Ravens have got to win out and they'll get in. Can I see the Browns doing that? No, not really. I mean, obviously Metcalf's just been suspended for 2 games by the league for punching a fan because the fan called him by his government name.
What, even a punch, or a miss?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He come out and said he tried to say the fan was racist and.
Well, there's a video though, wasn't there?
Video that says that he's not.
Yeah. But yeah, like that is kind of the end now for the Ravens season. Look, post game, I don't know whether anyone's seen it. It's been all over X. Shia Likely post game was seen walking out to his car, transportation. Obviously, the fans there at the bank were giving him we're giving everyone a ribbon, and rightly so. You know, a lot of these guys pay an awful lot of money to go and watch the Ravens, and you know, if I'd been there, it cost me £600 flight, a couple of £100 at a hotel and a match ticket to get there. I'd have been having my fair share because I'm one of them. I believe if you're a paying consumer to see a product and you're not getting what you're paying for, you're entitled to say what you want. In the video, it wasn't aggressive or anything by the fans. It was just, you know, jeering and, you know, a few words. To which Shia Likely turned around and just said, "We arse as fuck." I just don't like that at all. I mean, fair play. You're speaking the truth, but you can't come out and do that post game after being in the locker room with all the press and that. Like, you know, if you're gonna do it there. Like, you've come out and said it to a fan and possibly thought that's not going to go anywhere, and it's ended up on social media. So obviously, I think that is something that will be dealt with. What are your views on that?
Well, Isaiah Likely's got form, hasn't he, for end of the game sort of histrionics. There's that game against the Chiefs, isn't it, when he's walking off, someone shouts at him, just shouts us the fuck off. So I think he's that kind of guy. And he's fired up after a game. In the video as well, actually, Tom, it actually sounds like the fans are sort of trying to build him up and say, you know, there's still 2 games left, we can still win. And he's just gone, nah. I think as well, as part of it, he's probably Probably starting to realise he's played himself out of a big contract, hasn't he?
Personally, I don't see that much in it. Me, I don't lose too much sleep over stuff like that. I think, end of the day, I've played sports myself. When you're lost, there's nothing worse than a loss, is there? Especially when you give it up like we give it up in the fourth quarter, when you've got to win and you make it into a loss. So, end of the day, he's coming out of the stadium. He probably feels shit about it. And he's not had as many touches this season as he'd want. He's not had the season he wants. We've not had the season we want. So he's walked off and he said, we won't. And we are. If he'd have tried to cover it up with some bullshit, then I'd have been a bit more pissed off. But he's called a spade. And end of the day, when you're shouting outside stadium and you're giving it, you get it. And it's just one of them, innit? I don't see much in it. I just play on, pick flag up and move on.
No, I admire it. I admire it for telling the truth.
Some bollock media press train statement of going, oh yeah, whatever, yeah. Actually show some passion, but try to
Yeah, well, that's it. And I also think we've not used him a lot, have we? He's not had a lot. It's like I were expecting a proper breakout from him this year, and I know he got injured to start the year, but I can imagine he's probably a bit pissed off more as not only that we're doing shit, but he's not being used. We're not getting him into game, and he's got the tools that could break a game up for us. Well,
yeah, imagine how different the season would have gone if Taylor would have been in at the start of the season.
Quite possibly, it might have been the other way around. Not contracts too. So that can't have helped either. I know he's not going to want to see Mark Andrews out of any money, and they're all friends and that. But really, he kind of sees he's not daft. He sees business side of it. He's going to see that. Look, I'm not playing good. They've obviously given Mark a new extension. That writing's on wall here, and then he's not getting the touches. He's not getting the results, and everybody's losing. So yeah,
the extension for Andrews though is only really a 1 year extension with easy out after 1 year, but. Like, yeah, you're right. I'd probably end up at.
Be very surprised if. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if.
I'd be really, really good.
He might end up as quarterback for Chiefs at a minute. Can he throw?
I question an awful lot of things about Ravens players. Before we move on to the next one, Lamar and John Harbaugh. Lamar got injured again during the game, and I was there at the time, and then straight after the defeat, I know it was very vocal in the community about like, well, where's your quarterback? Like, where's your star player? Like, where's your talisman? Like, when you watch it back, he does take a hefty knee to the back, and I've seen clips of him post game getting interviewed. He does look in agony, but it's becoming a common issue now where the going gets tough. Lamar Jackson needs to go for a shit or gets injured.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of thought that at the time. I was like, is this a situation where you just two painkillers, get back on and just try and get this game over the line? You know what I mean? It just like.
I think Rich wants to have some. Rich has got something to say, and you won't let him join the conversation.
Is he in?
He said he's in.
He's not showing up at the bottom. He's not showing up at the bottom.
What I will say about Lamar and his injury is, do you think you'd have saw Josh Allen come back on that pitch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think Patrick Mahomes would have come back on the pitch?
Definitely, I haven't been Joe Flacco's biggest kind of appraiser, but Joe Flacco turns out on that pitch. Like, I'd understand it. Like, I mean, I'm not digging him out for it. Like, I've said it did look like a bad one, but
I think even a 60% Lamar.
If it was week 2, week 3 of the season, I'd understand it. But it's the business end of the season. You battle on through something. Like, do you know what I mean?
Even a 60% Lamar would have worked, because as soon as Snoop went in that second half, They just packed 3 linebackers into the box. They know that they knew fact that we were going to run it more or less every play. They set their scheme up accordingly, and we become one-dimensional. Even if we'd have run it with Lamar, having Lamar there, the presence that can throw it, that can move off the spot, it just poses more questions, and we become one-dimensional. And then we decided, when that were working and we're getting 7 yards a clip from Derrick Henry, let's just fuck him off. So then we just decided that we'll shoot ourselves in foot again. So ultimately, it's just one big circle, and it all comes back to fucking Harbaugh and his cronies.
Oh, yeah.
In my eyes, anyway.
I'm just sending Rich this invite. I mean, do they shut Lamar down now? Or do they wait and see? I mean, I don't even know whether he's going to be ready for Green Bay, but like,
I think if he's fit, he'll play at Green Bay purely on basis that Harbaugh's going to want to keep a face, keep a team out, and keep competitive, and not give up till the end. Which I agree with.
I don't know if it puts Harbaugh in a better chance of keeping his job with him saying, "No, he's absolutely fucked. I'm putting him down for the season. He's not been fine all season. What can I work with on that front?" And you're like, well, there's something to that, but we've seen the story played out over and over again.
But we won some games with Snoop, and we could have won that game on Sunday night with Snoop.
Just goes to show what an awful signing Cooper Rush was, really.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
We could have won that game. We could have won that game on Sunday night if Derek Henry, took snaps for the last 12 minutes and 50 seconds of that fucking game, and that is something that, I mean, I don't think I'll ever get over. Is it like why not do that? Like, I just don't get it.
It's not the first time when if you said we've got 24-13 up in the fourth quarter. They bring in Keats and Mitchell. And yeah, usually a bit of dynamism, but out there he looked completely sort of pedestrian. At times he was running attack. Not equestrian rich, pedestrian. But we don't help ourselves with that, do we?
No. A lot of time Keats and Mitchell were just running laterally from sideline to sideline.
It's there's so many things I don't get, and this is going to take us on to our next one. Richard, you've joined at the right time, because I'm going to be angry in this section, and you will bring your modest, well thought out approach, I'm certain of. Is the Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh era coming to an end? Now I say this in a few ways, meaning it a few ways. To me, it looks like there has been a clear breakdown between Lamar and John Harbaugh. I think there's something going on there. The other thing, I think John Harbaugh, in my opinion, shouldn't have got out of that stadium the other night with his job. I don't think he should have been extended a couple of years ago. I don't think he should have got extended in March of this year. When I look at John Harbaugh, there's numerous things. Questionable leadership. I don't think he's a leader that is required for today's NFL. I think he's been a great leader in the past. I'm not going to question that. But in today's NFL and how the game's changed, move forward, I don't think he's a qualified leader. Personnel calls, situations with personnel, we've discussed a few of them tonight. Like AD getting into the game in the fourth quarter, what's going on there? Derrick Henry not seeing the ball for 12 minutes and 50 seconds in the fourth quarter. Just being numerous. Obviously, the Daniel Flaherty thing, don't blame him. I'm putting the blame on whoever does the personnel change. The record for fourth quarter defeats, highest ever in a 5-year span. I look at the likes of Chicago, New England, Jacksonville, all had new head coaches this year going into the playoffs. Granted, New England weren't getting a rookie head coach, but they were getting a new head coach. They are all heading to the playoffs. And yeah, as I say, he shouldn't have got that extension in 2025 March, which obviously sees him through till 2028. I look at the situations that we've been in down the years where we've had the number one offense, a top 5 defense, time and time again, fall short. Without a shadow of a doubt, the Ravens have got the most talented offense that they've ever had as an organization in what they've got at the moment. Yet again, though, falling short. I'm going to use this as an example on leadership and coaching. Look at the San Francisco 49ers and Shanahan. They've had no Warner, no Bosa, no Deebo Samuel, no Brandon Ayuk, and they haven't even got a Ricky Pearsall. They're going to the playoffs. Brock Purdy has missed time. They are going to the playoffs.
Been in and out.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You know, Brock Purdy is playing out. And granted, Brock Purdy's playing out of his skin, and I think he's got it in his game. He got a decent deal. He's been to Super Bowls. But when you look at Shanahan and the 49ers and what they're doing, what the Bears have done, what New England Patriots have done, what the Jaguars are doing, to coin Sean Payton, a small market team. There's your difference in leadership. There's your difference in coaching. Because Chicago have turned it around overnight. Jacksonville. Does anyone have Jacksonville playing the way going into Denver mile high? And, you know, not coming out of there with just a win. Dominated the Broncos. Like, for me, when I look at John Harbaugh and where the organization is, where Lamar Jackson is, you know, Lamar Jackson's best years are getting wasted, and if it came down to restructuring a deal and extending him, if I'm Lamar, I'm looking at it now, going, the only thing I haven't got is a ring. Am I getting it with John Harbaugh still at the helm here? Like, am I getting it with the way the organisation is going? So why would I restructure my contract? Why would I even want to consider extending my contract to stay here when, like, his best years have been wasted? I said in the group the other day, in my opinion, since 2018 from that playoff defeat in 2018, from 2018 to now, I think it's fair to say that the Ravens probably should have been to 3 Super Bowls, won 1 or 2 of them.
I think it's the argument really for Harbaugh going to look at stats. Anytime a head coach and QB have been together for 5 years and they haven't won a Super Bowl, they've never gone on to win one. So there it looks in a direction. In terms of leadership from Harbs, it doesn't. We're not in the building, but it doesn't seem like the type. You know, you look at the last Super Bowl win, you look at the players there. Ray Lewis sort of carried that in terms of leadership. I just don't see it from him at the moment. He sits up there, you know, when we get away from these fourth quarter losses, or we want to do a run game, and says, "Oh, you know, that's the plan got away from us. You know, that wasn't on the plan. It was on the plan." You think you write the fucking plan, mate. What stops with you ultimately? You're the one getting paid millions to do this. You know, maybe it's on you. What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, look, there seems to be a lack of dynamism going on. And you know, John Harbaugh, I mean, I watch the videos of him in the castle at, 5 a.m. bench pressing more than I'll ever bench in my life combined. And he seems like a young guy, but in football terms, in sort of football head coaching terms, he's one of the older man in the league now. And I just think, I actually think, the game planning is good on the whole. That's why we're always up in the fourth quarter. But there's a lack of dynamism for when you get punched in the mouth a couple of times. We don't seem to know what to do when that happens. I think there are increasingly baffling decisions that it's hard to defend. I don't know what the logic would be to take out Derrick Henry. I don't think saying, he was due to enter the rotation is good enough, because ultimately, if Keaton Mitchell isn't getting the job done, like, well, you're the dickhead that can, call a timeout, or you're the person that can say, right, Todd, get on the microphone. Todd Monken, can you call Derrick Henry's number for the next play, please?
I don't buy that though, with that nonsense, because Derrick Henry's never been third or fourth down back, has he? So why would they play an entire season like they have done, and then in the crucial moment on one of the last few plays of the game, just switch everything opposite?
And that's what I mean. Like, it's just baffling, isn't it? That there's either something being hidden. Maybe Derrick Henry said to them, "Oh, I felt my calf tighten up," and they thought, "Well, we're ahead, and we think we can still do this. We don't want to risk him for a must-win game next week in Green Bay." But I don't get it. I love Harbaugh, and I've always, he is the Ravens coach. He's the only Ravens coach I've ever known, and I've always defended him when these questions come up. But I think I'm done. Like, I would be happy for him to go gracefully. We get a new face in the room, and I think if I'm sat here feeling like that, I think the majority of the Ravens fan base will be, because I've always sort of been the guy defending Harbaugh. I don't necessarily buy there's a massive split between him and Lamar. I think that comes from probably frustration with the way the season's gone. And I think that, if they got together next season and all of a sudden we were 4-0 to start the year, I think they'd be best buddies again. I think winning football is happy football. Losing football is, we get these stories, we get some little signs of frustration, but I don't know that that's personal to Lamar and Harbs. I think that would be I think that would be the case between any quarterback and any head coach that sort of would go into the season expecting a Super Bowl and looks like they're going to miss the playoffs entirely.
But I mean, if you're Lamar Jackson, like all of you are, if you're Lamar Jackson and EDC comes to you during the off season, needs to restructure your deal. Thinking about extending it in a year's time, whatever. Are you honestly, right now where you sit, are you thinking, you know what? I'll help you out. I'll restructure my deal. I'll extend when the offer comes on the table. Are you going to do that with John Harbaugh still there?
Are you going to sack your neighbour? For me, we are. But though, if we just drop back to that for a second, it's all the good leaders I see in NFL, like Dan Campbell, your Vrabels, all these strong leaders. They would never come out in the press and not take any ownership for. He takes no ownership for anything that goes on. And right or wrong,
Dan Campbell's done it before. You've seen clips of me.
Dan Campbell took the fucking play sheet away from the OC and started calling the plays because Jameson Williams weren't getting any at ball, and all his skill players weren't getting fed. So he was like, right, give me that sheet here, and I'm sure he did that mid-game if I remember rightly, and then took it for the rest of the year.
Well, I think what Dan's said there is part of the problem. Who's going to sack him? EDC. They're neighbours. Yeah. They've got such a good relationship. If John Harbaugh went round and gave EDC's wife a Christmas card, there's going to be no issues in that house. They're so happy they love each other.
We're getting into a dangerous territory where it's a bit more of a gentleman's club rather than a fucking sporting organisation. There's too many people that's too familiar. It's not a working, winning situation. It's more like, come on here, we're all pals in here. We'll cover all this up. We'll cover the cracks up. We'll get it sorted. Yeah. We need a bit more ruthlessness.
I think to an extent, what has been a great strength of the Ravens organization over the years, which I think has been that family feel, has been that stability, has been that people have been singing off the same hymn sheet. Right now, that's turned into a weakness because there is a hard decision that has to be made. and yeah, like they are neighbors, that they are best friends. That ultimately, I think to sack if it was to come in the form of a sacking, even like behind the scenes sacking, and then Harbaugh gets to go, Harbaugh gets to sort of have a lovely goodbye, and it's all done in a jovial way. That has to be a Biscotti decision, because I don't think EDC. Well, for a start, it's difficult in a way, isn't it? Like, what is the there is kind of a real job division there, isn't there, between a GM and a head coach? I think that's a Biscotti decision at that point.
We'll just put him ahead of the chapel. He could just look after Priesting building. You'll just look after religious RE section, and we'll get a new coaching.
I do think to a certain extent it is more of a it's turned into a bit of a jolly boys club. Like, as Xander said, come in, we'll have a good ride, we'll win plenty of games, we'll get to meaningful football in January. And if the rubber of the green goes our way, then we might get a ring out of it.
It's getting to the point where you need to take old Yeller out back and just put shovel on the back.
But this is the thing. So you look at the Seahawks organization, a superb organization, a well-run organization. Won a Super Bowl in the last decade, or maybe just out of the last decade now. And they made the decision. And if you look at it, you go back and have a look at the Seahawks a couple of years ago. It's the constant thing, like, well, he's got no protection on the O-line. Like, he's taking an awful lot of hits, and this is why we're struggling. Russell Wilson ends up moving on, and they end up making a move. However you want to call it, Pete Carroll was fired. He was removed from his job. And you're removed from your job, you are sacked. End of story. And then they ended up putting him upstairs. Then Pete Carroll has then since moved out of the organisation, obviously gone on to Las Vegas, and Vegas are the worst run organisation, probably with the Browns in the NFL. But I don't want to see, like, if there's a couple of us now seeing, well, hang on, is this a bit of a lads club here that's going on behind the scenes? I don't want to see a John Harbaugh becoming a president of operations or whatever. However they want to sugarcoat it. Like, I respect what you've done for the organisation. The Super Bowl win, everything. I respect what you've done. But the bottom line is you haven't adapted. You haven't changed your approach. In the 17 years now, you have not changed your approach. Like, you are the same John Harbaugh, where there is teams and organisations around the league, around the division. The whole division is going to, the AFC is going to change, but other teams are changing with the times, and we're just like, we're happy with what we've got. That decision now, I agree with you, Rich. That needs to be made by Steve. That decision to fire him can't be by EDC, because I think if EDC fires him or goes to Steve and go, this is the move we need to make, you see John Harbaugh is president of fucking operations or something, like, velvet lined red carpet like title. That just can't happen. It needs to be a clear out.
It's not just that. It's like when you fetch a new coach in, we can't have John Harbaugh loitering over at top of him. You need to give that coach the best opportunity, and that's a fresh, clean slate. You can't have somebody sat over there with all his Super Bowls and all his years' experience, like, kind of undermining what he's doing. Even though I don't think he would, but you need a clean break, clean slate, fresh ideas, clean the house out. Let's start again from ground up, because we've got the team to do it. We just need to start putting these people into the right spots.
I'd massively agree with that, actually, Dan. So, like, obviously, to become an NFL head coach, you must be a strong-willed character in the first place. But yeah, having some kind of grandfather figure over the top of you.
No, nobody's going to succeed with eyes in back of your head.
It would just make it hard. I mean, imagine on the first day the new head coach wants to walk in and tear down every single sign that says who's got it better than us.
Yeah. While John's following him round, screwing him back on.
They obviously. I mean,
look at the two teams with the longest tenured head coaches: Ravens, Steelers. Who are the two teams not been, other than last year, maybe they've not been anywhere near.
We're both kind of caught in that spear where we're too good to get a good draft pick and really help us, but we're not good enough to get into the conversations for winning the championship.
I mean, but even then, as you say with draft pick, I'm going to get onto this with the EDC, like Eric DeCosta. If you're listening or you see this clip, like when we get round to it, like I'm going to tell you a new one in regards to like not getting a better draft pick to help us. EDC doesn't draft well. I don't think he has it, and for me, that's a mentality thing. There's other organisations are doing things differently now, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But
that's a bold claim. I mean,
I genuinely don't think he does, Rich, and we'll get onto that when we get onto that next segment about EDC.
But I just wanted to, we will get onto that, I'm sure. Just wanted to shout out David actually in the comments. Sort of made a comment that I really agree with. Ravens have no heart. Why are they not jumping up and down on the sideline when it's going bad? And actually, I do think this is a team that at the moment isn't playing with a lot of passion. It does feel like they're going through the motions a little bit. And I suppose it doesn't matter how skillful you are. If the guy on the other side of the trenches wants it slightly more than you, when we see little things like missed tackles that let them gain 2 or 3 more yards and it turns 3rd and medium into 3rd and short, when we see kind of the odd route that isn't completed properly, or I just feel like I really agree with David at the moment. We have no passion as a team. There's absolutely no dog in the team at the moment. Probably Kyle Hamilton is about the only one that looks like he wants to kill the opposition.
This comes back to that point that we made earlier before you were on, Rich, about Lamar padding up when he were injured. I reckon there's a fair few quarterbacks in the league that had just knuckled down and got back on field. And I think that ultimately boils down to attitude at team. I'm not saying he might be injured. It might be more serious than what we think, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that need to look at themselves and think, yeah, this ain't good. And I think it comes from top. I think his message is stale. I think he's saying the same things, saying the same cliche quotes. He's saying, you know what I mean? He's going through the motions, and everybody's just sat there at meetings bored as hell.
This
I is have you seen the PowerPoint
ideas.
Like,
I would. Sorry, Ollie, go on.
Go on, Oliver. What were you saying?
I said you've seen in the wired clips and stuff at the PowerPoint he puts out for the team meetings. They're the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. It's like a GCSE IT project.
And the worst thing about it is
fired up.
He'll be getting somebody to do that. He'll not even take ownership of a PowerPoint.
One of them HR PowerPoints.
In terms of, what we have to understand actually is the age profile of a lot of the players, and actually, we really are sort of beginning to get into Gen Z, and
fucking hell, here we go.
I know that he was the number 1 overall, and I think you can do what you want when you're the number 1 overall, but Caleb turned up to his draft class with a handbag, you are dealing with players that grown up in a different universe, and maybe this comes back to the age of Harbaugh. It is no longer good enough to say to players, you have to do X, And if you do X, you're going to be fine and you're going to succeed. Players, younger people, and I mean, I say this, I'm not old. But younger people today, they really want to know why. You know, they've got a lot of questions. You know, I don't know if he's. I think when you say like it's the same old cliches, well, I reckon that just goes over their heads. Players need to be. They need. I think they need a lot more individual attention. I think they need a lot more kind of guidance around why they're doing the things. I don't think you can just say to a player, right, line up, run 10 yards, turn around anymore.
Yeah, I think you've got a point with that, Rich, actually. I think the younger players don't seem to have a connection with him. You know what I mean? He's not getting the juice out of these younger lads because he's saying the same old fucking shit that he's been saying for the last 17 years. And these younger lads are not firing that connection off and wanting to turn up for him.
Just one other, well, just like touching on the leadership again. Look, we've been very, very, very quick to jump on John Harbaugh for leadership. I'm going to question EDC's leadership, even potentially Steve's leadership for this to kind of carry on. One person who I don't think is getting a kind of full scope of attention in regards to his leadership, and in my opinion, lack of leadership, is the other person in this title for this section, Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson is the talisman. He's the star quarterback, 2-time, should have been 3-time MVP. But when your talisman, the person who is going to carry this and take this team to a ring, decides I can't be asked turning up to OTAs here. I'll just lose out on a little bit of money. Now I know it was a voluntary OTA, doesn't have to turn up, but to me, like, you're a team captain, turn up, show out, show these young kids like how important OTAs are. Because if you're not turning up to OTAs thinking I've done them before, then what these young kids who have just been drafted into the league, or even second year veterans now, what are they going to be? I just don't like that. Like, Aaron Rodgers didn't do it when he was at the Jets, and that was one of the reasons why, towards the end of his tenure, like the head coach was like, we're going to move in a different direction. It was one of the things that was flagged up. Turn up to OTAs. You're a team captain.
Yeah, I agree.
You know how beneficial it'll be for rookies to see Lamar turn up.
I think
them situations.
In elite sport, it is the 1% that make a difference, right? And Lamar Jackson turning up to OTAs, like, that's a chance for him to get better. Every time you step onto that training field, that's a chance for you to get a little bit better at whatever it is that the trainers are asking you to do, whether it's fitness in voluntary OTAs, whether it's, tossing footballs to your wide receivers to get a slightly better connection with them. Every single time, like every time you don't turn up to that, you're missing an opportunity to get better as an individual. And then I think in terms of what you said, Tom, is setting the tone for the team. I am a big lead by example type of guy. That's what I expect from the leaders in my work. And I don't always see it, and it pisses me off. I'm a big set the tone, be the change you want to see, look at me and my cliches. But, that is an example to everyone on that team, right? The highest paid guy, the 2-time MVP is taking this chance to get better. Maybe I should do the same. And I also think as well, it goes beyond that. So, Tom Brady, obviously won a lot of Super Bowls. Undeniably, maybe not the most talented quarterback ever, but the hardest working quarterback ever. As much as we can laugh at shit like avocado ice cream, there was a reason why he was eating that. You know, he wanted to make sure his body and mind was in the best place possible so he could put the best product on the field every single time. I didn't, you know what? Every quarterback's different. And, you know, maybe he's an extreme example. But, you know, I watched the quarterback documentary. Someone like Kirk Cousins didn't have one alcoholic drink when he went out with his friends because he said that would affect his performance. And again, I'm not sure I back that up from a science point of view, but
I can confidently say that having an alcoholic drink does affect your performance, as was visible on Sunday night. Confidently, I can die on that hill.
In that bottle.
What about on a Tuesday night or a Monday night? I think you're right, Rich. I know, and I could say, you know, I know for a fact that if one of those guys asked you to come in early for some extra tossing, you definitely turn up. I think we need to try and look at setting the tone on that. You know, like Belichick made all the guys come in and run hills on OTAs, and that was constant. No matter who you are, you do it. It doesn't seem that, like, is there a reason, you know, where we see so many players on a Wednesday, Thursday, not practicing, not training?
So
even have that time off, but
even outside the castle, you think that Lamar would be, as a leader of the group, or Roquan Smith as leader of the group, would be getting the place together and studying stuff that's coming up and bonding together. It just seems like they're not together. It just seems like everybody's looking over the shoulder and nobody's together in this. You'd think that they'd drag each other together and have some. But surely Lamar can pull his wide receivers to the side and do and stuff like that together.
Or maybe a quarterback who keeps having stomach issues should stop eating food at petrol
Shrimp Alfredo.
I mean, just on the subject of OTAs there, I've just had a quick check. Jeff Seabrook put out at volunteer OTAs this year: Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, Kyle Hamilton, Sanusi Kane, Aruji, Jake Hummel, Emery Jones, absent because of shoulder, Kyle Van Noy, Ben Cleveland, Ronnie Stanley, Madubuike, and Daniel Falele. He was participating after he didn't the week before. So you look at a group of players there that are leaders who were meant to be stalwarts in this team going, I'm not bothered about OTAs. I mean, I seen a clip today of the Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott being a leader. And what he'd done is he'd got everybody in the auditorium at the Dallas Cowboys training facility with the rest of the team captains and said, look, this is something that we've been doing over the last couple of years. This is a list of staff who don't get paid bonuses. But, these are members of staff who in practice might just be pitching you balls, might just be holding the pads for you, staff in the canteen. He said, on this list, and he handed forms out to every single player. He said, on this list, you write down what you're giving them as a bonus and don't be cheap. That's a leader. That is someone getting everyone together and going, look, like, it's not just us, not just the 5 captains here in this organisation. Everyone in this organisation plays a part to how we perform. Because if that person in training isn't pitching you the balls, what are you doing? If he's not holding the pads for you, what are you doing? So it's about respect, responsibility, and leading from the front and going, this is what we're going to do. So he's got them all down to write down. Well, I'm going to give. And he says the people that affect you the most. So if it's the O-line and it's someone holding the pads for the O-line, you pay them more than you pay others. But everybody gets paid. And then at the end of it, they tallied it all up. Every single member of non-playing staff at that facility ended up with a Christmas bonus. That's leadership. That's accountability. That's taking accountability and showing a bit of respect for these are the players, these are the people that have an effect on everything we do day to day life. The people who, as you say, Rich, a part of that 1%.
We got 2 players that didn't even turn up to mandatory camp, and football stands up on the deal. Were it Bateman and we just re-signed him? Travis Jones.
Just re-signed it, yeah.
I think Jones and Bateman, in terms of their attendance, I mean that was from a couple of years
one day. Yeah, they won't miss one day, but still. Why would you do it? Why would you miss it?
I think it feels, for me, and I do understand actually. You know, maybe the drop off between a starter and a backup, you know, is steep. Doesn't really feel to me like there's any accountability in terms of within the Ravens organization. Players don't get dropped. You know, you have a bad game, you're just out there next time. If you're, you know, it feels a bit harsh, and I feel like we said, like, we talked about Harb's doghouse in the past, and I think that's a different story because once they're in that, they never get
but
out.
Some players never get dropped, and some people get dropped and never find field again. I think there's a very much inconsistency between the players that John Harbaugh likes and the players that he don't like.
Daniel Falele gets to go out every week and be a fucking embarrassment to football.
That's not his fault. I mentioned that before. And I've listened. I'm sorry if I'll go over this again, but Richard wasn't here. But I said the thing with Daniel Falele now, it's not even on him. Like, you're going out and doing your job. Like, you're not doing your job well, but you're doing a job that you've been sent out to do.
At no point,
Richard, it's like someone. Richard, it's like someone. It's like your head teacher saying to you, I want you to go and teach year 9 badminton. You're not a PE teacher.
I don't understand. And like, I'm using Falele as an example, but you know, you could pick anybody really. You know, you could say to a backup linebacker, you could say to anybody, you could say to a cornerback. But like, I don't know, we got someone like Corey Bullock, who came on massively in the summer, made the 53, great news story. You know, that guy, obviously desperate to make it into the NFL, play his first game, like anyone else, you know, get money for himself and his family. I don't understand why you can't go, look, Corey Bullock, you've seen Daniel Falele fucking it up for the last 10 weeks and being one of the worst guards in the league. You are going to get a half of action. And if you fucking kill it, you're the starting guard moving forward. You're getting an opportunity. This is why I don't understand it. It feels like the players that get to start can do whatever they want because the backups that should be pushing them and are probably doing their absolute best to be pushing them in practice, never get onto the NFL field.
It falls back to that old boys club again, doesn't it? That we've just been on about with leadership. Mm. It just seems like it don't matter how much you kick it door down, that Harbaugh's set in his ways and he's going to do it his way, whether it's fucking us up or whether we're doing well.
But, you know, would Corey Bullock, and you know what, there's a decent chance he probably would be. Would he be worse than Falele? I don't know. But if he got into the game and he was worse than Falele, then Harbaugh could go, well, look, I've tried something different. That didn't work. Falele is literally one of the best 5 offensive linemen. Everyone's just got to deal with it. You know, we'll try and draft a better one or whatever the case might be.
I mean, bottom line to round off this section is
leadership. None.
Not is, because we don't know what they're going to do, but should John Harbaugh be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens going into 2026?
It's getting to the point where I'll fucking take him to airport myself. I'll put fucking for sale sign in EDC's and the other side of EDC's fence and get him shut. I'm done with it.
Dickie?
Bunkin with him.
I think there's been a fundamental issue with how the team was built where we didn't prioritize the lines. And I think it's hard. If you don't win in the trenches, you're not going to win many football games. I would be like, this off-season, we are doing whatever it takes to fix the trenches. Harbaugh, you've got one more year. And if it doesn't work next year, then you're gone.
Oliver?
No. For me, in short, I just don't see it. Well, what will happen, possibly two different things, but
That's it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think he should be being vocal in it. He should have lost his job the other night after the game. And maybe that is a bit harsh because technically they've still got a chance to get in the playoffs, albeit it's not in our hands at the moment in time.
But Tom, we were favourite to win Super Bowl. Scraping into playoffs isn't a good season.
I know.
We've got a team to win this shit, and you know what I mean. Like,
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying maybe that's why they haven't done it now. I think Black Monday he's going to be headlining it. My only concern is that it's going to fall on the OC and the defensive coordinator again. We've seen down the years now.
But we've had a fucking rafter OCs and DCs.
But this is what I mean. I've got a horrible feeling that Harbs is going to be, given another chance, and we'll go again next year, getting a new OC and a new DC. And look, the bottom line is we all don't think that he is going to be in the job next year, and I don't think he should be. Right. Moving on to the next segment. Eric DeCosta, plenty of questions, yet no answers. We kind of covered the EDC the other week loosely about is he under pressure and should he be under pressure. And as the weeks have gone on since that episode and what's transpired on the pitch, I am more and more inclined to say that if John Harbaugh and the OC and DC are going to go, then I'm looking at Eric DeCosta. Have you changed with the time? Have you changed with the times? Because you look around the league, there's younger front officers out there now. There's modern coaching. These front officers identify who they want, and they'll go and get them. They'll trade up. The Chiefs traded up to get Rashee Rice. The Eagles traded back into the first round to take a pick. I think it was this year's after, it might have been last year. They solve problems aggressively. Whereas at Baltimore, they draft late, they'll sit tight. They go with this mantra of we'll draft the best player available. I can kind of understand that argument to an extent, but it's not just about drafting the best player available. Like, draft what's going to be the best fit, and don't be drafting someone we go, in 2-3 years' time, this is what we're going to get, because you're crossing your fingers. Time and time again, the Ravens accumulate picks. We've been vocal on this about how many picks we've got in next year's draft, especially in the later rounds. And they don't want to. There's opportunities to do something at the deadline and maybe lose one or two of them, but they don't want to, because again, we'll take the best player available in the fifth, in the 4th, 5th round. We'll cross our fingers for 3 years, and hopefully he'll turn into something. If we don't extend him and he's turned into something well, we'll get another 3rd round comp pick. They miss out on difference makers time and time again. Every single time at the end of the season, they say this roster's close. They went and got Derrick Henry to take us over the line, and then he doesn't play in the last 12 minutes and 50 seconds. How many times I've said 12 minutes and 50 seconds on this episode tonight? I do not fucking know. And the bottom line is, drafting good value, in my opinion, good value doesn't make plays in December when it's all on the line. Doesn't get separation on a 3rd and 8. Doesn't win one-on-one off the edge. And it doesn't bail your QB out when all is on the line. Like, standing still in this league now doesn't do anything. You don't stay the same. You end up dropping back now in this league if you try and do the same thing over and over again. The Ravens front office in my opinion, are playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And, just on the subject on EDC drafting, 2019 took Marquise Brown. Where is he? Patrick Queen didn't up trees, did he? Didn't up any trees, did he? He's in Pittsburgh. Hasn't got a sack this season. 2021 in the first round took Bateman in OA. 2022 Hampton and Lindenbaum in the first round. I'll give him Hamilton. 2023 Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is going to a Pro Bowl. He's got more fumbles this year than touchdowns. It may be ours. Look, the numbers that Zay's put up receiving so far. All right, Chad, I'll give you that. But we discussed the issues that Zay Flowers has had this season. And in 2024, he took Nate Wiggins. They're just first round picks. I was going through all the draft and looking at players. I just think this front, I understand what Ozzie Newsome did for the organisation. Ozzie Newsome left, ETC came in, and it's Ozzie Newsome the second, and all them things I've listed. Other front officers aren't doing that. The Chiefs traded with fair fucks for the Chiefs for being cheeky enough to do it. Traded with the Bills to go up to take Rice. It's stupid of the Bills to do a trade like that, but could you ever see EDC and the Ravens trying to trade up to get back into it hard to take the player they want? I know obviously 2018 Ozzie Newsome did it to get Lamar traded back in. I just think EDC, I think the front office, they're lost. Like they've gone out with the tide while every other front office is on the beach sunbathing, having a good time, and EDC is struggling now to tread water.
I like EDC. I said I like EDC, and I think he's done a lot of things right. But I will give you that point. I do think sometimes he lacks a bit of aggression. I think sometimes, for instance, the O-line. Sometimes you've just got to sacrifice a few picks to get to a position where you need to get that position filled. Best player available, yeah, it works. But if you've got a glaring deficiency in your O-line, and then you take in a safety in your first round, which then you're into your second and third round, where we know they don't grow on trees for starting O-linemen. So sometimes you've just got to sacrifice something to go and get the player that we need. And we're at a point in as run here where we're a few positions lacking. Not best player available. We're a few positions that we need filling. And if he's not going to be aggressive enough, or whether that's free agency, whether that's a trade, whether that's moving up in the draft, we need to get these positions sorted. So he's done a lot of good things, and I respect what he's done, and I do like him. But I think we're at a point now where he needs to grab bull by horns and fill them spots. And like you said, the aggression and being willing to do these things seems to be lacking. It values the picks almost too much, where it leaves us with deficiencies that we could have sorted.
I think this is hard, actually. I think there is some draft logic which I will get to, and I will criticize. I think EDC could rightly say that the play on the field has not matched the expectation that could reasonably have assumed to have been the case before the season. So, I think.
But before you carry on, is that not coming back to my point of you're drafting someone and crossing your fingers for 2-3 years for him to turn into something this year, and it hasn't happened? Like if the Ravens are in a window to win now, be aggressive, spend the money, use the picks. Look, bottom line is if they've done something, if weeks before the deadline, the writing was on the wall. It hasn't just been a capitulation the last couple of weeks. It's been on the wall for a long time. So if you've done something at the deadline, I'm not even going to name the player again because I've named so many times on this, but you could have used a fifth to get him. Would we have been sitting there April the 23rd draft night going, fucking hell, Dan's, fucking hell, Dickie, fucking hell, Oliver. I'm devastated we've got no 4th round picks here, got no 5th round picks.
I think,
but there's a Lombardi on show. Like, are you really that asked about like Do you know what I mean? You're in the window to win now, so do what you can to win now.
I think, like, certainly that's talking about trade logic. I think I'm talking about draft, the draft here. I think we have invested a lot in the O-line. I think we haven't necessarily invested. I mean, in the last 2 years, we obviously invested a second-round pick in Rosengarten, who appears to be a pretty solid right tackle. Obviously, we've invested multiple sort of third and fourth round picks in the position.
But he's cheap as well. He took Voorhees because he did his fucking leg in, so he could get him for a 7th.
Yeah, but I mean,
he's bargain bin shopping all the time.
I think though, you could look at our O-line and you could say, look, Falele had an ascending season last year. Not a stellar season, but had come a long way over the course of that season. Obviously made the Pro Bowl, bit of a joke, but you could probably assume Falele is going to give you average guard play. I think you could say Rosengarten had a really good rookie year, beat expectations. We're expecting him to take a leap. I think, you'd say Ronnie Stanley. We know what we're getting from Ronnie Stanley as long as he stays healthy. Still a decent left tackle in the league. I think you could say Linderbaum has always been incredibly solid for us. Voorhees, who they were high on and was sort of touted as a mid-round pick before, obviously, he tore his ACL. And I think you could go, well, we drafted Emery Jones, who we really like. And, I knew, obviously, he was hurt, but they're saying that they didn't expect the injury to take that long to come back from. I think you could.
They need to expect this shit, though, don't they? They need to do the due diligence.
I'm not saying that, but I think you could say there was a reasonable expectation that we would have a pretty decent O-line on the players that we had. You didn't necessarily need to get a guard in the first round.
But we ain't even got back. We ain't even.
Then, isn't it?
I think you could say on D line or certainly the front seven on D. OA had come off the best season of his career. They were obviously really, really high on OA, and the big decision would have been whether to keep him on the, whether to extend him. Like, what I can't understand here, we can talk about the pass rush. I mean, they got Mike Green in the second, who we're all very excited about. I think you could reasonably go into that season and say, we expect OA to get 10 sacks. And the fact is, for the first 6 weeks, OA went onto that field and didn't beat a tackle once on one rep. And then obviously traded OA away, and all of a sudden he's gone to the Chargers. He's getting a sack a game. I don't, you can't put that on EDC. I don't know why that was the case, but that's not an EDC problem. I think what I'm trying to say is the players have not performed to what they could have reasonably have been expected to perform to. I think in terms of EDC's logic, draft logic, in the first round, I suppose this depends on what your definition of a bust is. Every single player EDC's drafted in the first round has been a pretty good football player in the league. I think what I would criticize about EDC, and this is an organizational philosophy, and I think always has been. I am not sure in the modern NFL building the defense from the back to the front is the way forward. You only win really in the NFL if your defense is putting that QB on the ground, because it doesn't matter how good Marlon Humphrey or Wiggins or Malachi Starks turns out to be, they cannot cover a wide receiver for an infinite number of seconds. And so I think there have to be a shift where actually we kind of go, we get the nastiest front seven that we can possibly get. And it doesn't matter if the cornerbacks lose a little bit of coverage because the opposition quarterback has got a big D lineman in his face.
Yeah, that brings it back to what I was saying earlier, though, Rich, about sometimes you even in the draft, it's not necessarily the best player available; it's the best player that we need for our fit. And whether that means we've not got the correct draft position, whether that means pushing up in the draft, or even trading back if we feel like that the players that are there available are not what we need to be fluid in that. And it seems like he values the picks that too well, that is after value rather than putting a team out there that's going to compete.
I think,
like we said, that the O-line's regressed, yeah, but John Harbaugh clearly don't trust anybody on the O-line to fill the spots that are clearly tragic. So if there's no backups available, then you can see why John's wheeling Falele out every week, because there's nobody there chomping at the bit to come and take the position. So that is...
I was saying, if we are looking at then getting rid of... If you're thinking about getting rid of EDC at the end of this year as well as getting rid of the whole coaching staff, for me, I think that's a recipe for us not doing anything next year at all.
Oh no, I don't feel like we should get rid of EDC. I just feel like he needs to have a shift in mentality. I feel like we've got positions that need filling.
I'm not saying that he needs going. I'm just saying, look, like surely now EDC is going to start feeling some pressure, because you look at you go to the 2022 NFL draft. In the second round, who did the Ravens draft in the second round? Ojabo. George Pickens was still on the board.
I think
Pickens is a player that is heavily linked with someone that comes into Baltimore next year, and then you've got your wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, and Pickens, Flowers, and Bateman.
I think it's really hard to criticize the Ojabo pick in terms of, had he not torn his Achilles, he would have probably been top 10 in the draft class. He had the Michigan link to Mike McDonald. There was a link to OA from their high school days. I think people bloody loved that pick at the time, and I think, yeah, Captain Hindsight, it never worked out for Ojabo. He suffered continuous injuries. It's hard, isn't it? I don't necessarily class an injury bust as a bust, because that's the nature of the sport, is big men running into each other and people get hurt. And you know what? I'm sure there's some absolute Hall of Famers that tore both ACLs in high school and therefore never made it into college. There is a certain element of injury luck there. But if we think about Pickens had a lot of red flags, and as an organization, like we don't pick those guys. By and large, those guys stay off our board, and that's a discussion as to whether they should be. But that is sort of current policy. You know what?
We took Mike Green.
I was just about to say, how many red flags does Mike Green need?
No, but that's what I mean. But like, Pickens is not currently tearing it up for the Steelers. Like, he's not on that team that drafted him. Like, it sounds to me like Pickens needed a real kind of kick in the ass and a real wake-up call. And yeah, he's gone to Dallas and he's absolutely tearing it up. But why would he have had a different trajectory if we had drafted him? The chances are he would have been off our team tearing it up for Dallas.
I think when you look at Pickens in the selection there, you know, the Steelers took him in the second round in 2022. It was I think the second year post Big Ben. They were an organization that didn't really have a QB. And you look at the QBs he had at the time there, Mason Rudolph, Pickett, and looking not so dangerous Russell Wilson. Yeah, maybe I think there is things there with Pickens, but he's got an edge to him, and maybe going to Dallas and getting a QB that when he is fit is an above average league quarterback. He didn't have that at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh obviously still managed during them times still managed to stay a 500 team or above 500 team, but there was obviously struggles there. So it's unfair to say that he's not at the team that drafted him. Like I think there's just more to it than he's got red flags, and in regards to the red flags, and the team stays away from them. I was a big, huge fan of the Mike Green selection. Obviously, if it wasn't for the red flags he had, obviously the accusations not being proved, there was no charges brought. It's important that we do say that.
When we're saying people are a bit stuck in the mud, a bit stuck in their ways, well, that Mike Green pick is that not absolute empirical evidence to say, well, actually, is the organizational philosophy starting to change where you look, and I'm fully on the train that Mike Green is an innocent man, certainly in the eyes of the law, and from what I understand, the complaints never led to anything, never went anywhere at all. But yeah, a few years ago, I don't think we would have picked Mike Green, and now we have picked Mike Green. So is that not a sign that times are changing, and that EDC is kind of changing the operandi?
I mean, you could say that, but I just I've only named his first round draft picks there. EDC. I just shifting away from the trading side of his job, and the drafting side of his job, and looking at improving the team. There's just when you look at other front officers and things that like they do, the Ravens don't do enough of that. They don't do enough of trying to solve the issues now. They back themselves to find players in the draft that can come in and make a difference during the season. Though, I just look at some of the things he's done. I've already mentioned the Jair Alexander move. No, I don't think many GMs make that move to bring him into the organization. The reason why he was brought into the organization was Lamar Jackson's sway. The reason why Hollywood Brown was brought into the organization and drafted that well was partly to do with Lamar Jackson's sway. I'm thinking if you're influenced in making moves like that, Marquise Brown hasn't done anything. Absolutely fuck all in the league. I just started to think, if you're making them moves, like you've signed Jair Alexander in the offseason and you've traded him away for a bag of peanuts, like, because it hasn't worked. You can argue the case of the move that he did make, bringing in what's his name from the Titans, has freed up Kyle Hamilton to go and do his job better. Yeah, I'll give him that one, but you still haven't just made it. It's just reactive. It's not proactive. It's reactive.
I'm sure this is originating with you, Danzai. So I'm going to give you the credit. I think you said something. If you dip your hand in the bargain basement bin, sometimes you get a load of crap, or words to that effect. I think you know what, Jair Alexander didn't work.
It was a shot to nothing, wasn't it? We didn't pay too much for him.
Say that in recent years, the bargain basement bin has produced, Aloy Gilman, who has made a really positive impact this season. Draymond Jones impact. I think we can talk about Kyle Van Noy. I think
Clowney
was in that bargain basement bin. I think I'm sure
this falls to me. This falls for me. Like, yeah. I think he's been half decent with his bargain bins, but I think that falls back to we're not drafting who we need in the draft. Like, yeah, best player available, but like I could keep saying, I think sometimes you've just got to be proactive and fill that spot. Well, that means if you're not in the right draft spot, you need to go and get it. So I think sometimes we're leaving it too much to the wheeling dealing and not getting the people off the board that we want.
To me, it's almost like, you know, do you want to get 10, 11 wins and like start hanging pennants for best draft grade? Because year after year after year, you know, the analysis, Mel Kiper and all them always turn out and go, the Ravens have had the best draft there. Absolutely smashed the draft. Phenomenal. It's not doing anything for us, though. As I've said, to an extent, I understand the BPA idea of it. I do, but it's not fantasy football. So I mean, it's real life NFL. As Dandy said, if there's a player there that you want, move up to get him. If it's not there when it's your pick, and you know someone like Seattle after the best player available there that you're going to take, but he's not going to be the best fit, or it'll be 2-3 years to get the benefits out of him in your organisation, but Seattle are going to get a benefits out of him now. Trade down.
What I'd say is I've got a feeling they might be going BPA in the later rounds, which actually I think is really solid as a strategy, because sort of the statistics of how many late round picks develop into starters, develop into role players, it's actually shockingly low. And I think that around draft time, I think that we should bring out those statistics and talk about them. So I think you just have to get who you think is going to be a good football player and find a role for them. I don't actually think they're going BPA in the first round anymore. I think when you kind of look at their picks, in terms of, I think last year they absolutely fell in love with Malachi Starks. I think it wouldn't have mattered who else really was on the board. They wanted Malachi Starks, didn't they? They were gushing about his interviews, his character. And I think, you know, you can look at the logic there and you can go, yeah, well, actually, that was a forced multiplier pick because, you know, it freed up Kyle Hamilton to go back to his sort of, well, I call it his hunter-killer role, where he just pops up everywhere and anywhere on the defense and kills somebody. I think when you look at the Hollywood, sorry, not the Hollywood brand, when you look at the Zay Flowers, there was reports, wasn't there, that they basically at the Senior Bowl, they were basically just following Zay Flowers around the pitch for like the whole training session and whatnot. I think in the first round that they fall in love with somebody, and it doesn't matter who else is on the clock. I think when you looked at, I think you could argue Linderbaum was the best offensive lineman in his entire class, and so is that a best player available pick? But also, we had gone out of the playoffs because of some snapping issues, and I think they just thought, we've gone with some bargain basement centers. We need to get a quality center on our O-line. I think Kyle Hamilton was an absolute best player available. To be fair, I don't buy that they are sitting there looking at positions and not taking any account of that and just picking the guy highest on the board. I think EDC has given interviews, hasn't he, where he has said that there are tiebreakers and things like that they use. I think the one thing he has said on the best player available, they put their players into buckets, right? And EDC has said he will never pick a player in the B bucket if there is a player in the A bucket still available, which I think is fair enough.
But what's he grade and then buckets on? Is that best player available or fit?
Well,
like,
obviously,
position of need.
Yeah,
position of need.
I would assume that there's a little bit of everything that goes into it.
What I don't get with that method is, though, if you're taking, say, a cornerback in first round, but we're all right at cornerback and we're desperate for a D lineman, it's like I don't get why you'd want then a deal like you'd take a
Well, they
cornerback.
would talk about. I mean, I think there's constant churn in the NFL. I think they would say, well, we might be okay at cornerback right now, but there's no guarantee that two of them don't do their ACLs on the first day of training camp.
That's how it goes, yeah. But ultimately, we've lost in trenches, haven't we?
They would talk about, we need talented football players because you know what? Being overstaffed at cornerback isn't the worst thing in the world, but drafting a first round bust is pretty terrible. And by and large, I don't think that we do draft bust players in the first round. Hayden Hurst really would be the last one in 2018. I think that what they would say is that we would rather have the most talented guys and then dip into that bargain basement bin to try and find a D lineman than sort of have less talent on the roster.
I think things need to change though this year.
I mean, it does definitely need to be a change of approach, and obviously, with that being said, like the end of the year, if changes happen that we think are going to happen, you know, and there is a head coach change and OC and DC change. How does that buy EDC more time, or does then the pressure then come on EDC if that doesn't work out?
I think EDC is fine.
I think where the pressure on EDC would come, I think EDC's got a job for the next 10 years if that's what he wants to do. But I think where the pressure would come is if Steve Bishotti's got anything about him, when they go off to the Bahamas and have their end of season chat, he's going to say, we lost this season because we got no pressure on the quarterback and the O-line, you know, couldn't block anything. And I think EDC's going to have a mission. He's got to have a mission this year to upgrade both trenches. And I suppose that's where the pressure comes on because to an extent, like the discussion we just had, do you stick with the organizational philosophy and pick, you know, maybe the best available cornerback, which isn't, it's a secondary need, but it's not the biggest need, just because a cornerback has fallen to you at draft pick 16? Or do you kind of go, we're going to pick this 5 technique who isn't quite as good, but we are absolutely desperate to get.
I don't even think it comes down to that, Rich. That what I'm saying is it's not even that. It's if you feel like there's an O lineman or a D lineman in top 10 and we've got pick 16, he should be proactive then to try and get to that position to fill that. Not wait at 16, let them all go off board and then take a cornerback. And what I'm saying is he needs to be proactive and pushing himself into a position to fill the positions of need. I've got no problems with him taking best player available if we're just chilled on that and we're happy just to play it like that. But at the minute now, it's glaringly obvious that we've got both trenches that need addressing. So he needs to now find a first round talent to fill them spots. And if that means we're not in a position where we're finishing the season, then he's got to go and get that, whether that's in the draft or trading for one, but more likely in the draft, I think. But we've got to be proactive and get them spots filled and not just sit there at position 16, 17, 18, wherever we finish, 12th, whatever and wait for something to come to us. We need to go and get that position because I don't think it's a massive O-line class this year. I know there's, from what Phil said on the pod other week, that there's a lot of D linemen, but if that means drafting up into top 10 to get that position filled, then I think that's what we need to do because it's glaringly obvious.
I think to an extent, there's very few slam dunk players in any draft where you can draft them in any confidence and think, well, yeah, this guy's gonna be an all-pro pretty much from the get-go, right? And I think that those guys that do exist, they don't fall down the board particularly far unless they are in one of the undervalued positions like safety or center or you know. And I think, to be fair, the price to go up and get one of those guys would be massively prohibitive. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it, but
we've got to work. You've got to work everything out for cost and value. But ultimately, this is season 8 with Lamar. How many more years do we need to? Are we going to let him get fucking?
And what I do agree with EDC about, the draft is a series of educated guesses, right? And actually, when you evaluate it sort of after 4 or 5 years, the best player at the position group from a particular draft class, generally not the first person drafted in that position. You know, when we think of, you know, who are the premier edge rushers, you know, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, they weren't the first guys. They weren't the first guys off the board at their positions. You can find talent all throughout the draft,
which I think he's good at. I give him his flowers. I don't think he's good at getting it. I just feel like we need to be a bit more proactive to at least try to fill the positions that we desperately need. It's not necessarily going to work out.
It's not for me. It's not like I'm. To an extent, yeah, I am doubting some of that, you know, some of his talent finding, but also I'm like this window of Lamar being, you know, he hasn't been at his best this season. It's one of them seasons where he struggled with injuries, and you know, there's a body of work to show that when Lamar struggles with injuries, and when he gets fit and he comes back the next year, he's phenomenal. He's, you know, I've got firm beliefs in the fact that he's going to be an MVP candidate next year. But while that window with Lamar every single year now is closing and closing, it's getting tighter and tighter. So these positions that you need to address, either trade aggressively, spend the money in free agency and go and get like the best free agents that is out there and pay the money. Do what you can, be proactive about it, or draft aggressively and go, who can come into this organization and be an instant hit? And I know they're hard to find because everything isn't educated, and there's a risk with everything. There's a risk with signing every free agent. There's a risk with every trade. Player might come in and get injured. There's a risk with every draft pick. I get that, but it's about being proactive. You look at, as I said, other front officers, younger front officers, they're identifying who they want, who they need, and they're going out and getting them.
Look at Huey Roseman at Philly. He's not scared of a switching draft or a trade. They were secondary were Finnock ground. They got Phillips before deadline, didn't they?
I think realistically, and obviously, look, we got free agency to go as well. I, for one, am desperately hoping Linderbaum, they find a way to keep Linderbaum. Because I mean, I think if Linderbaum
we can't physically let him go.
I think Falele doesn't deserve to be on the team, right? He needs to go. Voorhees, I still believe in Voorhees' ceiling, but he's still completely unproven as to whether he can get to that ceiling. Our interior offensive line is an absolute mess, and like obviously that is not helped if Linderbaum walks. But I think realistically, for this team to get to the Super Bowl, we need another top edge, right? Mike Green, I think we're all so excited about Mike Green, and hopefully he takes a second-year leap. But again, that's on paper. We think he'll do that. It's unproven. We need an edge that we can sort of feel confident will get 10 sacks. And we need a guard that will give us above average guard play. And I think if we can find those two players in this offseason, then I think that window is still open. But I agree with Tom that the window is closing rapidly. And I think if we don't find those two particular players, whoever they might be, then I don't think it's open at all, because I think we'll run into the exact same problem that the O-line will be dysfunctional. and the D-line won't get any pressure.
Agreed.
There was another segment to do, but we're just literally on the cusp of 2 hours altogether. So
2 hours on the soapbox.
The other segments about is 2025 the best thing to happen to the Ravens organization in a short while, and the reasons why I think that is the case. We'll do that on the next episode.
In short, yes, if Harbaugh leaves.
Yeah. Look, thank you very much for everyone who tuned in, and people who left the comments. Ben, Patriots Tucks Back Pod dropped in and gave us a little message. Slide dig as well. And David, thank you very much for all your comments. We've seen them. We put them all up on screen as they came up. Guys, it's coming to the end of the year, Christmas. I wish you both great Christmas. Spend time with your loved ones and your family. Everyone who's been a part of the podcast this year, thank you very much. Same goes for you. Have the best Christmas. Stay safe. I'm going to leave you with a potential entry to a late entry to the Christmas #1 top 40 here in the UK. All that is left for me to say is have a good one. We've been Ravens Across the Pond. I've been Thomas. They've been Danzy, Dickie, and Oliver, who scarfed earlier. We'll see you on the next one.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All the best.
Who's the god everyone's mocking? Fa la 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 lay lay. He falls over instead of blocking. Fa la 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 lay lay. How did he make last year's Pro Bowl? Fa la 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 lay lay. Get this fucker off our payroll. Fa la 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 lay lay.